What happens to consciousness when the body falls silent? This question has haunted humanity since the dawn of awareness itself. We stand at the threshold of our own existence, looking into the darkness of the unknown, wondering if there is anything beyond the final breath. And perhaps in that wondering, we touch something profound about the nature of reality itself. Edgar Cayce, a man who spent his life exploring the mysteries of consciousness and the human soul, offered us a perspective that challenges everything we think we know about death, awareness, and what it truly means to exist. His insights suggest that consciousness is not something that ends, but something that transforms. Something that continues in ways we can barely comprehend with our limited understanding of the physical world. Consider for a moment the nature of consciousness itself. What is it that makes you aware? What is the essence of the I that observes your thoughts, your feelings, your experiences? Is it merely the product of electrical impulses in the brain, a fleeting phenomenon that dissolves into nothingness when the body dies? Or is it something far more fundamental, something woven into the very fabric of existence itself? When we look at consciousness, we find ourselves in a paradox. The mind that tries to understand consciousness is itself consciousness. We are attempting to observe the observer, to measure the measurer. This fundamental mystery suggests that consciousness might be far more than we assume. Throughout history, mystics and philosophers have pointed to a truth that modern science is only beginning to acknowledge. Consciousness appears to be fundamental to reality. It is not merely a byproduct of matter, but something that might exist prior to matter, something that gives rise to the physical world rather than emerging from it. Edgar Cayce spoke of consciousness as the very essence of the soul, the eternal aspect of our being that exists beyond the limitations of time and space. He suggested that what we call death is not an ending, but a transition. A shift in the form and expression of consciousness, much like water changing from liquid to vapor, yet remaining fundamentally water. Think about the nature of energy. In the physical universe, energy cannot be created or destroyed. It can only be transformed from one state to another. We see this principle operating throughout nature. The sun's light becomes the plant's growth. The plant becomes the animal's sustenance. The animal returns to the earth and becomes soil. Everything cycles, transforms, and continues in new forms. If this principle applies to energy, why would it not apply to consciousness? If consciousness is, as many spiritual traditions suggest, a form of energy or vibration, then it too must follow the laws of transformation and continuation. It cannot simply vanish. It must go somewhere. It must become something else. Cayce's teachings suggest that consciousness does not reside in the brain, but rather uses the brain as an instrument of expression in the physical world. The brain is like a radio receiver, tuned to pick up the frequencies of consciousness and translate them into thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. When the radio breaks down, when the body dies, the signal does not cease to exist. It simply continues broadcasting on frequencies we can no longer perceive with our physical senses. This is a profound shift in perspective. It means that death is not the end of consciousness, but the end of its expression through the physical body. What awaits consciousness after death? Cayce spoke of realms of existence that exist beyond the physical plane. He described these not as abstract concepts, but as real dimensions of reality, as tangible and real as the physical world we inhabit, though operating according to different laws and principles. In these realms, consciousness continues to exist, to grow, to learn, and to evolve. The soul, freed from the limitations of the physical body, experiences a reality that is far more fluid, far more responsive to thought and intention than the material world. In these dimensions, your thoughts become your reality. Your beliefs shape your experience. Your consciousness creates the world around you directly, without the intermediary of physical matter. This raises a profound question. If consciousness continues after death, what determines the nature of that continuation? What shapes the experience of the soul in these other realms? Cayce suggested that it is the sum total of our consciousness while alive. Our beliefs, our intentions, our understanding of reality, the love we have cultivated, the wisdom we have gained, the patterns of thought we have established, these become the foundation of our experience after death. In a sense, we create our own afterlife through the consciousness we develop in this life. We are, quite literally, building the reality we will inhabit after death through every thought we think, every choice we make, every moment of awareness we experience right now. This is both humbling and empowering. It suggests that nothing we do, nothing we think, nothing we feel is insignificant. Every moment of consciousness matters. Every act of kindness, every moment of genuine understanding, every instance of love and compassion contributes to the development of our soul. And conversely, every moment of fear, every act of cruelty, every instance of separation and judgment also shapes our consciousness and determines the nature of our experience beyond this life. We are not passive observers of reality. We are active creators of our own destiny, both in this world and in whatever comes after. But what of those who have no belief in an afterlife? What of those who live their entire existence convinced that death is the end? Cayce's perspective suggests something fascinating. Even for these souls, consciousness continues, but their experience of that continuation might be shaped by their beliefs. A soul that has convinced itself that consciousness ends at death might experience a period of confusion or darkness after the physical death, until it gradually awakens to the reality of its continued existence. The consciousness does not cease, but the experience of it might be obscured by the very beliefs that shaped the soul during life. This points to something essential about the nature of consciousness and reality. Reality is not fixed and objective, independent of the observer. Rather, consciousness and reality are intimately intertwined. What we believe about reality shapes what we experience. Our consciousness literally participates in the creation of our reality. This is not mere philosophy or wishful thinking. Modern physics, through the study of quantum mechanics, has begun to reveal that observation itself affects reality at the most fundamental level. The observer and the observed are not separate. They are part of a unified whole. Consider the implications of this understanding. If consciousness shapes reality, and if consciousness continues after death, then the soul continues to participate in the creation of reality even after the physical body has fallen away. The consciousness of those who have died continues to influence the world of the living, not through supernatural intervention, but through the fundamental interconnectedness of all consciousness. We are not isolated islands of awareness, separated from one another and from the universe. We are waves in an infinite ocean of consciousness. When one wave subsides, it does not disappear. It merges back into the ocean, becoming part of the whole, yet retaining its essential nature. This understanding offers profound comfort to those who grieve. The death of a loved one is not a complete separation. The consciousness of that person continues to exist. The love that connected you continues to exist. The bond between souls is not severed by the death of the physical body. In fact, Cayce suggested that the bonds of love and connection between souls are among the most real and enduring aspects of existence. They transcend the physical plane. They persist across dimensions. A soul that has passed beyond the physical world can still be connected to those it loved in life. The connection might be subtle, might be perceived as intuition or inspiration or a sense of presence, but it is real. Many people report experiences of contact with those who have died. A sudden thought that seems to come from nowhere. A dream that feels more real than waking life. A moment of profound peace or comfort that arrives exactly when it is needed most. A sense of presence in a particular place or moment. These experiences are often dismissed as imagination or wishful thinking. But what if they are something more? What if they are genuine contacts between the consciousness of the living and the consciousness of those who have passed beyond? Cayce's teachings suggest that such contacts are not only possible, but natural. The veil between worlds is thinner than we imagine. Consciousness can reach across it, especially when motivated by love. But this raises another question. If consciousness continues after death, and if it can contact the living, why do we not experience this more frequently? Why is the evidence so subtle, so easily dismissed? Cayce offered an explanation. The physical world operates according to laws of density and vibration. The consciousness of those who have passed exists at higher frequencies, at more subtle levels of vibration. The physical body, with its dense material nature, is not naturally attuned to perceive these higher frequencies. It is like trying to hear a radio station that broadcasts at a frequency your radio is not tuned to receive. The signal is there, but you cannot perceive it. However, in moments of deep meditation, in dreams, in states of heightened intuition or spiritual awareness, the consciousness of the living can attune itself to higher frequencies and perceive the presence of those who have passed. This suggests that the development of consciousness while alive is not merely a matter of accumulating knowledge or achieving success in the material world. It is a matter of refining and elevating the frequency of consciousness itself. It is about developing the capacity to perceive and experience reality at deeper and more subtle levels. It is about cultivating awareness, sensitivity, and spiritual understanding. The more refined and elevated our consciousness becomes during life, the more easily we will be able to perceive and navigate the higher realms after death. We are, in a sense, preparing for the afterlife through the quality of consciousness we develop in this life. What does this mean for how we should live? If consciousness continues after death, if our beliefs and understanding shape our experience in the afterlife, if the quality of our consciousness determines the nature of our existence beyond the physical world, then every moment of this life becomes precious beyond measure. Every choice becomes significant. Every thought becomes important. We are not merely living out a brief existence before oblivion. We are engaged in an eternal process of growth and development. We are building our soul. We are creating our destiny. This perspective transforms how we might approach the challenges and difficulties of life. Suffering is not meaningless. Struggle is not pointless. These experiences are opportunities for growth, for the development of wisdom, compassion, and understanding. They are the means by which consciousness evolves and refines itself. A soul that has never faced difficulty, never struggled, never suffered, would be a soul that has not truly grown. The difficulties of life are not punishments. They are invitations to develop deeper understanding, greater compassion, more refined consciousness. Similarly, this perspective transforms how we might approach our relationships and our interactions with others. Every person we encounter is a soul on its own journey of development. Every interaction is an opportunity to either elevate or diminish consciousness. Every moment of genuine connection, of authentic understanding, of real love, contributes to the development of both souls involved. Conversely, every moment of judgment, of cruelty, of separation diminishes consciousness and creates patterns that will persist beyond this life. We are not merely affecting the present moment. We are shaping the eternal nature of our souls. Cayce spoke of the concept of karma, but not in the way it is often misunderstood in Western culture. Karma is not punishment and reward meted out by some external judge. Rather, it is the natural consequence of consciousness. It is the principle that what we put out into the universe returns to us. What we create through our consciousness becomes the reality we experience. This is not mystical or supernatural. It is a fundamental principle of existence. Plant a seed of kindness, and you will harvest kindness. Plant a seed of fear, and you will harvest fear. The universe is not punishing or rewarding you. It is simply reflecting back to you the consciousness you have put into it. This understanding suggests that the concept of judgment after death, as portrayed in many religious traditions, might be understood differently. There is no external judge condemning or praising your life. Rather, you encounter the natural consequences of your own consciousness. You experience the reality you have created through your beliefs, your intentions, your actions. If you have lived a life of love and service, you will experience a reality of beauty and connection. If you have lived a life of fear and selfishness, you will experience a reality that reflects that consciousness. The judgment is not external. It is the natural result of the consciousness you have cultivated. But here is the profound mercy in this understanding. Consciousness can change. Growth is always possible. Even if a soul has lived a life of fear or cruelty, even if it has created patterns of consciousness that result in difficult experiences after death, that soul is not condemned eternally. It can learn, it can grow, it can develop greater understanding and compassion. The soul's journey does not end at death, it continues. And in that continuation, there is always the possibility of transformation, of redemption, of evolution toward greater light and understanding. Cayce spoke of multiple incarnations, of the soul returning to the physical world again and again, each time with the opportunity to learn new lessons, to develop new aspects of consciousness, to move closer to understanding the fundamental nature of existence. This is not punishment, but opportunity. Each lifetime is a chance to grow, to refine consciousness, to move toward greater unity with the universal consciousness that underlies all existence. We are not trapped in cycles of rebirth. We are engaged in an eternal process of development and return to source. What is the source? what is the ultimate nature of consciousness? Cayce pointed to something that many spiritual traditions have recognized. There is a universal consciousness, a fundamental awareness that underlies all existence. Some call it God. Some call it the Absolute. Some call it the ground of being. It is the consciousness from which all individual consciousness emerges, and to which all consciousness ultimately returns. Individual consciousness is not separate from this universal consciousness. It is an expression of it, a localization of it, a particular manifestation of the infinite. When we die, when our individual consciousness releases its attachment to the physical body, it does not cease to exist. It returns to its source, merges back into the universal consciousness, while retaining its essential nature and identity. This is perhaps the most profound mystery of existence. How can individual consciousness be both separate from and part of universal consciousness? How can we be both unique and unified? How can we be both eternal and temporary? These paradoxes point to the limitations of language and rational thought. They point to truths that transcend the dualistic thinking of the mind. They invite us into a deeper understanding that can only be grasped through direct experience, through meditation, through the cultivation of awareness itself. In the end, the question of what happens to consciousness after death cannot be answered through intellectual analysis alone. It can only be understood through the development of consciousness itself. As we refine our awareness, as we cultivate deeper understanding, as we move beyond the limitations of fear and separation, we begin to perceive the nature of consciousness directly. We begin to understand, not as abstract knowledge, but as lived experience, that consciousness is eternal, that it transcends the physical body, that it is woven into the very fabric of existence. And perhaps this is the greatest gift that contemplation of death can offer us. It awakens us to the preciousness of this moment. It reminds us that we are not merely physical bodies moving through time toward oblivion. We are consciousness itself, eternal and infinite, temporarily localized in physical form, experiencing itself through the lens of human existence. Every moment of this life is an opportunity to experience that consciousness more fully, to express it more authentically, to develop it more completely. The question of what happens to consciousness after death is ultimately a question about what is happening to consciousness right now, in this moment, in your awareness of reading these words, in your capacity to wonder, to question, to seek understanding. That consciousness that is aware right now, that is experiencing this moment, that is you in your deepest essence, is what continues. It is what transforms. It is what evolves. And the nature of that continuation is determined by the consciousness you are developing right now, in this very moment. So perhaps the real question is not what happens to consciousness after death, but what are you doing with consciousness right now? What are you creating through your awareness? What patterns are you establishing? What beliefs are you cultivating? What love are you expressing? What understanding are you developing? Because these are not separate from the question of the afterlife. They are the answer to it. You are building your eternity in this moment. You are creating your soul through every conscious choice you make. As you move through your day, as you encounter challenges and joys, as you interact with others and experience the world, remember that you are not merely living a temporary existence. You are engaged in an eternal process of consciousness development. Every moment matters. Every thought counts. Every act of love, every moment of genuine understanding, every instance of compassion and connection contributes to the evolution of your soul. And when the time comes for your physical body to fall away, when your consciousness releases its attachment to the material world, you will carry with you everything you have become. You will continue in a form and dimension that matches the consciousness you have cultivated. You will be home, in a sense, in the reality you have created through your own awareness. This is not meant to inspire fear or anxiety about living perfectly or achieving some impossible standard of consciousness. Rather, it is meant to inspire wonder and appreciation for the opportunity of this life. You are here. You are aware. You are conscious. That is the miracle. That is the gift. That is the mystery. In this moment, consciousness is experiencing itself through you. The universe is aware of itself through your awareness. The infinite is expressing itself through your finite form. And that expression matters. It contributes to the evolution of consciousness itself. If this reflection has resonated with you, if it has awakened something in you, Consider subscribing to continue exploring these deeper mysteries of consciousness, existence, and the nature of reality itself. And please, share in the comments what you believe happens to consciousness after death. What is your intuition? What does your soul tell you about the continuation of awareness beyond the physical world? Your perspective matters, your consciousness matters, and in sharing your thoughts, you contribute to the collective exploration of these eternal questions that have always called to the human spirit.